Scott, thank you very much for agreeing to serve the township in this capacity. We greatly appreciate it, and I believe you've already been sworn in by the district judge. So,
Yes, sir.
with that, I'd like to formally thank you.
People have no idea how much we count on volunteering for the fire company and the fire police. We're going to do a budget tonight, we'll get to it a little bit later. But I can tell you that our budget wouldn't look anything like it looks if these volunteers didn't step up to the plate. They protected each other. And along with the other GMC police, they're really the backbone of our township. So, okay. Now we're back on the agenda again. My understanding is that there were some people who weren't here before, where we did not take any action to change the night of trick or treat. The suggestion was that if any development wants to go off on their own and have one night, we'll try to coordinate that and say in the create for Westover or somebody wants to have a trick or treat night different than the night it's scheduled for. There were some issues that we had in the township with scheduling police officers and so on that came into place. So anyhow, if they do that, please let the township know, and we'll try to arrange for a squad car to go through that neighborhood that night and try to make sure that everything's safe and kids will be able to watch it. So anyhow, okay. So now we're back on the agenda and we're into audience participation. Any item not on the agenda, just so we all know. What we do here is we have a section where you have anything you want to talk about, we're running the township, somebody has a pothole, well, we're not going to fix our pothole, or whatever it is. And later on, as we get into the various things, we will permit that on the agenda, we also permit audience participation then. So if it's something that's already on the agenda, this isn't the time. This would be something that's not on the agenda. So, is there anybody that has anything at this point?
Hi, this is Kathleen King on Double Road. I just wanted to thank commissioners and Mr. Ness for putting the email addresses on the board of commissioners. Email addresses next on the bios on the webpage for people that if they want to contact you, they know how to. I appreciate you listening and that you did that. Thank you so much. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Gaspich for his resolution that he offered up today. I would like to take that one step further, and I would like us to make a motion to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance in Hampton Township. We lack one, and there are many rights that are denied many of the individuals that Mr. Gaspich mentioned in his resolution because we are lacking such a legislation and statewide legislation. So we lack the state law, but we can cover people through non-discrimination in our township. So I would, I'm asking the commissioners to set forth whatever procedures. Maybe you could let me know how that starts.
Thank you. That's a very good suggestion. I'm not sure what that entails, but we would definitely look into that.
Well, what would be the first step in getting that to start?
We just took,
Okay,
brought it
then-
to our attention, and so now the next step is to ask, to find other examples of that and so on and so
Well,
forth.
I know that Camp Hill Borough has adopted.
Who did?
Camp Hill Borough, within the last year or two, has adopted a non-discrimination ordinance.
Thank you.
And I would like specifics. I see that we have on the agenda the ordinance about the taxes and stuff towards the end of the, so how can we, how
How does it go about? He's going to
Yes.
explain it.
How it's done is, a person like you makes that request to the commissioners. Commissioners assigns it to staff, including the solicitor, myself, on occasion. And what the staff will do is develop an ordinance by looking at different examples presented to the commissioners. It'll be open for public comment. I know, like you said, Camp Hill has done that. Borough of Carlisle has done it. The state law allows that type of ordinance to be prepared. So that's something that, with the direction of the commissioners, staff will look at, and we'll come up with something for the commissioners to review.
And the timeline, Keith, and the advertisement requirements.
Well, advertisement is like any ordinance. The time that is typically taken is in developing the ordinance itself. Once it's approved by the commissioners to be advertised, it's typically anywhere, usually 30 days.
Okay, can we include community involvement in creating, crafting the ordinance?
That is entirely up to the commissioners. Your involvement typically would be, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, everything that we do has to be in community
Well, but
involvement, so
I
I'm
meant,
not
would you
sure.
advertise that there would be a meeting for people to meet that are interested in help crafting the ordinance?
Well, typically what happens is the staff develops a boilerplate or whatever you want to call it, ordinance,
Mhm.
and then brings it to the commissioners, who put it out for a public meeting where you and anybody else comes in and looks at what's drafted and can make comments and suggestions.
Mhm.
So it's an interaction between the Board of Commissioners and our public. So yes, the answer is they are involved in it. Usually though, they're involved in it after there's something to look at. if that
Okay,
makes
all right.
sense.
I would request that you would really look at the Camp Hill ordinance and try to adopt as much as possible from what they have.
Thank you, that's a very good suggestion, I'm sure we will.
If it pleases the board, I'll strive to work with the solicitor to have a draft ordinance for your review and discussion at the next meeting, and then you can ultimately decide if you proceed with that version or amend it, and then, of course, the advertisement requirements and the future meeting requirements for it to be adopted. It cannot be adopted at the next meeting.
Of course,
Thank you.
but you took the first step, and that's
Okay,
very good,
thank
thank
you.
you. Maurice,
All right,
good to see you.
good to see you as well. I just wanted to
Give
echo,
the nice lady your name officially.
sorry, it's Maurice Reeves on Bellows Drive. I just wanted to echo Kathleen's comments, and I'm glad to hear that it's gonna move forward. And I also wanted to thank you, Commissioner Kasich, for your resolution. That is greatly appreciated. And,
Let me just clear the record.
All right.
It wasn't just mine.
Sorry.
A couple of us worked together
Sure,
on that.
sorry.
But I think you know my
You
feelings on
introduced
this.
it.
Yes, so I just wanted to thank you as well for that, and echo Kathleen's comments. And I'm also happy to help with anything that needs to get done to make an anti-discrimination ordinance get passed. So if you need some citizen involvement, I'm happy to be involved.
Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you, everyone.
Earlier this evening, President Thomas read into record a statement that was prepared by Commissioner Beanstock, and he indicated at that time that if someone would wish to have a hard copy of that statement, they're available. The recording secretary has those if you're interested.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Jumoke Cartwood. I live in Hampton, Hampshire. I came today to ask Mr. Beanstock questions because he encouraged me last week to do that. And I looked at his response. I feel that Mr. Beanstock continues to be patronizing and dismissive of minorities in his comments. We minorities are tired of the phrase, perception is reality. We're tired of that phrase. Mr. Beanstock also states, people with different backgrounds and life experiences see things differently. He alludes that while it will receive differently because of their life experiences. I have no life experiences other than the fact that I'm black. It's because I'm black that I perceive this comment to be demeaning. It's not because of my life experiences. Mr. Beanstalk acknowledges that his position is one of public trust, and he takes responsibility. It's time for accountability. I thank you. He talks about that he's going to be resigning as president of this board, and he talks about his fellow commissioners and for them to accept his resignation. But his accountability is actually towards citizens, not just to you 5 commissioners. It's to the citizens that put him in that position of public trust, including us minorities. We're 2%. 2% black, 83% white, a total of 16% minorities. Why should we have to listen to Mr. Beanstalk? Why should we trust him? He's asking us, elected citizens, to trust him. So, Mr. Beanstalk, for the record, let it be entered into the records that yes, you're an official, you're a public official, and you should understand the meaning of the word demeaning. I am part of that, 2%, I'm part of the people you serve, 2% black. Your limericks that ask minorities to be profiled and generally spoken of in a demeaning way is not acceptable to us. Your actions for 13 years encouraged 83% of this community to humiliate and disrespect the remaining 16%. His actions as an official has impact, and I want you to understand that it has wider impact. His words are not just silly. This type of behavior is reprehensible. It causes young students to believe that they can follow in his footsteps. Your deplorable act statement sends a message to our young students that they can use this reprehensible language. They will take it into our schools, and they will call our children nigger. They will be abusive to our students, and they will, in all honesty, like Mr. Beanstalk said, there's nothing wrong with his comments. I asked him last week if the reporter stated incorrectly, and he asked me to come here today for an answer. In all honesty, he said, there's nothing wrong with the comments that he made. That Sikhs should they should use a hairnet. That they should refer to their turbans, that we will not call them towels, let's call them sheets. That's not demeaning. When entities like Cumberland Valley School District do not aggressively address harassment incidents, and they don't send a clear message of zero tolerance of prejudice, hate, harassment, and discrimination, they grow up and become adults and use reprehensible language that is objectionable and demeaning. And one day, they may hold positions of power. One day, they might become elected officials. So I ask this board to think twice about asking Mr. Beanstalk to continue to represent and serve us, because he needs to serve all minorities. He needs to serve all residents of Hampton Township, of which we minorities are 16%.
Thank you for coming in. We appreciate the comments.
Ma'am, you may have provided it, but do you wish to provide the recording secretary with your name and address?
I'll spell it for you. J-U-M-O-K-E. The last name is K-I-R-K-W-O-O-D. My address is 1971 135.
Thank you very much. We're still with the audience participation before we go on to the business that's on the agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Rabia Wajid. I'm here to share my thoughts and concerns, and that will lead up to some questions. So I'm a very proud American Muslim. For the last 18 years, since after 9/11, people of my faith are still viewed as terrorists, as the other, and as an outsider. Some people still don't trust Muslims. So my question is, what makes Mr. Beanstalk different from us? Why should we as minorities just accept his resignation as the president of the board and continue to allow him to serve on the board? Why should we be asked to consider his 30+ years of combined service when we vote on 5th November? Why should we trust him when some people still don't trust people of my faith? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Tara Shakespeare. I am a Lower Island resident and I work in Hamden Township. Several things I wanted to thank you folks for honoring our veterans. Obviously they mean a lot to all of us in the community, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge their service and we can appreciate it all together. Secondly, I'm very pleased with item 12 on the agenda. I am very thankful that you folks acknowledged several of our concerns from last week. However, I continue to be concerned about Al Beanstalk's representation of Hamden Township, Cumberland County, and Pennsylvania as a whole. I appreciate that he's no longer president. It seems like that was his decision, but it also seems like that was done to placate the community. And sadly, it's insufficient. I understand that you folks are all in a position of power, and you have say over what happens to our residents. You have a say over over what happens to people who use our public transportation. You have a say over who has access to the public swimming pool. And you have access to who has equal rights in this community. And so if we can have Kathleen's idea to get some actual laws passed that respect and acknowledge that, that's wonderful. However, if 1/5 or 1/4 or half of the people actually making that decision to pass that law perpetuate in the problem, that's not very fair to the community. And Al Beanstalk seems to represent something that is unfair to the community as a whole. Whether we live here, we work here, we play here, or we eat here, or shop here, or whatever it might be, this is still a concern. This is not something that can be appeased by a shift in power while he still remains in control over so many residents' lives.
So what's your suggestion?
My suggestion is you folks have some conversations with each other, and Al Beanstalk steps down. He is an elected representative of the community.
And I can tell you, I mean, and you have to honestly understand that we've had significant discussions.
And I appreciate that.
We've had very significant discussions with him also. So please don't characterize any of us that 1/5, 2/5, 3/5 of us may still carry those types of beliefs, because I mean, in all fairness, I don't think that's a fair characterization that any of us.
Well, I haven't heard
sitting
from
here-
any of you, so I don't know.
Well, I will tell you that we just drafted a resolution. If you're telling me that I didn't believe what I said, there's no convincing you then,
That's
because.
absolutely not what I said.
Well, okay, please restate what you just said.
I don't know what your beliefs are. I do know what Al Beanstalk's beliefs are. He put them on paper for 14 years, and he put them on paper tonight.
Right. And
So I do
I
know
don't
what
know
his
what you
beliefs
want
are.
me to do. He's an elected official.
So
We
there's-
removed him from his his seat.
So you removed him, or he chose to step down as president?
He chose to offer his resignation, and we accepted it.
Okay, so you're telling me that if an elected representative has some moral failings, I don't know what else to call that sort of language, that there's nothing you folks can do?
At risk of providing you a roadmap to do something,
Yes.
there are 3 ways under which an elected official can be removed from office.
Mhm.
One is by, I think, committing a felony.
Okay.
The other one is, I think it's called misfeasance, malfeasance in office. And a third way is by a vote of the majority of the Senate with approval by the governor.
Okay.
Those are the 3 ways.
Okay, and what's malfeasance?
Not doing something you should be doing.
Like representing your constituents fairly and unbiasedly?
You have to make that determination. I'm not aware that's specifically addressed in the law.
Okay. And so if a township commissioner were to commit one of these acts, or one of these things were to happen, what is the next step?
I do not know the next step. I've
Okay.
never been involved in that next step,
Okay.
and I don't know what to tell you. And please don't take this the wrong way. I provide advice to the township staff
Sure.
and the Board of Commissioners.
Right, I understand.
And I really can't give a private citizen advice as to how to remove someone from elected public office.
Okay, I understand that. Then the next thing is that it was brought up at our last meeting, or your last meeting, is that you folks sign something when you start your term, correct? Some sort of financial responsibility statement, code of ethics, something of that sort? Is that correct?
I think every year they,
Okay,
The
and
law
what is it
requires
called?
that we fill out a financial interest statement to say if we owe anybody money or things like that. I mean, the public it is in the public interest to know when we're voting on things, whether or not we have some conflict of interest. So every year, it's on file, who we work for, things like that.
Okay, and then is there anything that states that you will act ethically and morally and anything of that sort?
in that document, I don't believe there's anything specifically,
Okay,
but they're governed by, this board is governed by, and I'm governed by, right, the Ethics Act, which is a
Okay.
state law.
and what does that state?
Oh, that-
Could
we
you
have
summarize
three-
it?
Right. I'll do my best. It describes conflicts of interest and that how elected officials should not engage in conflicts of interest.
Mhm,
And if you go to the Ethics Commission website,
mhm.
they have the Ethics Act, they have, I think, questions and answers like FAQs, things like that.
Mhm.
So you can ask questions, or you can read the questions and answers that are most commonly asked about the Ethics Act and how it applies to public officials.
Okay, and that will give instructions on how to file a complaint or that kind of thing?
It will, that site will certainly give instructions as to how to file an ethics complaint.
Okay, excellent. And so are you folks not interested in signing any sort of moral and ethics agreement on how to best represent